Welcome to another episode of VNture podcast, your weekly source of visual novel goodness. I am BRUCEcast, and together with Ange, we'll venture into another discussion about VNs. For this episode, it's April Fools, and as such, we'll be looking at various announcements, joke visual novels, and every which way companies have April Fooled their fans. So, Ange, I believe you had a couple of things you wanted to start with.
Yeah, so the cool thing about April Fools that I found is both the Japanese developers as well as the official English translators like to kind of jump in on the April Fool's train in their own way. So, for example, with Manga Gamer, one of the oldest long-running visual novel translation companies, they a few years ago, or was it last year, they did this funny trading card game thing where they just got a bunch of the popular characters from titles they translated. So, for example, they have characters from like the Rant series, or If You Love Me Then Say So, or Sakura no Mori Dreamers, and it was just a fun way for them to kind of pseudo advertise their visual novels, but just kind of make a little game with like a little trading card game designs, even though there was no actual trading card game. But then I remember a few years before, they also made some goofy Flash game where you can have characters kind of pitted against each other or something. But obviously, sadly, that's not something that could be done anymore. Bruce, do you remember if you saw any of the Manga Gamer stuff?
I did take a look at the trading cards that they did. I think it's really cool the creative ways that companies go about doing these April Fools kind of pranks, and you even saw a lot of people actually interested in buying some of those trading cards, which I think is kind of funny, especially since it ends up being a joke. But yeah, I really appreciate the creativity that goes into it as well. A lot of different joke visual novels that are released. Some of them are actually pretty good. Um, Most recently, you got the Sega one for Sonic. I believe it's called The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it's like a full-length, well-produced visual novel. I don't know if you've watched or played any of it, but it's really neat.
Uh, yeah, I have it. I just haven't gotten to it. But someone who's like been a Sonic fan for God way too long now. I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten to it, just because it seems like a goofy mystery story that. But and I actually like a lot of the Sonic here, so I would probably get a lot of the references that they make in that game. But I just haven't gotten to it yet. But it is cool that they not only they released it, but they released it for free on April Fools, and that's like one of the best April Fool's presents, I guess you can say, they released ever for anything related to visual novels.
It's really funny too, because well, Sonic the Hedgehog is pretty well known for its differing quality in its games. So I was looking at a lot of the Steam reviews for it. People were saying how it's the best Sonic the Hedgehog game that's released in like the last 10 years or something, which might be true for a lot of people.
Unfortunately, that it rings true for me. I haven't really been interested in most of their games for a good 5 to 10 years. Like I liked stuff like Sonic Mania, but that's only because Sonic Team didn't really make it, and which is weird because this game was actually made by the mainline Sonic Team of some sorts. So seems weird they can make this, but then you have stuff like Sonic Forces that nobody liked, and Sonic whatever the new Frontiers, which is a lot more mixed. But at least they had ideas. At least they had new ideas.
Well, maybe if we're lucky, they'll keep producing visual novels and stop doing whatever they were doing before.
Right. Yeah, another example I wanted to bring up is another kind of recent one. So recently, Nexton released the one remake. It's basically a Jun Maeda visual novel before Key was a thing, way back in the early 2000s, late 90s. And yeah, one was kind of like a kind of like the beta version of like your average key store, like Canon, Clannad, Little Busters, and they just released a remake in late 2023, and that was actually announced on an April Fool's, I believe, in 2022 or something, and that got people really hyped because that I remember that was just there was just a fan translation of the original one, and I know some people who kind of liked it, but the fact that it got like a remake with like modernized graphics and updated translation and available on Steam was pretty nice. But it kind of also doubled as Japan kind of taking advantage of making an actual joke. I guess you could say announcement where they announced a Moon remake, which is also a pre-key a pre-key visual novel, although I guess that one didn't have too much Jun Maeda stuff, but it released before one, but they even made like a really nice graphic and website for it and everything, but sadly, from what I've heard, the Moon's story gets like way too dark to the where it might be kind of hard to have a all ages remake without just removing a lot of stuff, but anyway, the point I'm making is I think it's cool that Nexton was able to kind of have a fake announcement to kind of for the spirit of like the Western April Fool's thing, but also have a legit announcement to, I guess, I just only heard recently that apparently April 1st in Japan, it's like their start of their fiscal year, so it kind of helps them be like both have real announcements, you know, to get people started for hype people up for the next new thing, while also being able to have a little fun at the same time.
Yeah. I actually did do some reading of that visual novel too, but I didn't know it was its background was birthed from April Fool's joke.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough. Stop right there,
Whoa,
Knoskam.
whoa.
Really?
What's going on
Wait, what?
here?
What's going on?
Who do you think you are taking over our podcast?
And not only that, you're talking about key VNs on my podcast? Come on.
Oh, the humanity. What do you have to say for yourself, Ange and Bruce?
I didn't realize you disliked you that much.
This was Andrew's idea. I avoided it.
No honor among thieves.
No.
Well,
Never.
I'm here to set the record straight that this is the VNture podcast with your hosts Taros and MR, and it appears two scoundrels have tried taking it over for today for April Fool's Day session.
It breaks my heart, but I have to forgive for my fellow emote lover, okay?
You're lucky.
appreciate it.
You're lucky I can't stay mad for too long.
That's true.
Well, can we compromise and just maybe share an episode together then?
Yeah, I guess we can.
Oh, I'd love to.
I guess.
But yes, with April Fool's Day on the horizon and many visual novel companies getting into the mood with all sorts of fake announcements, this would be a good time to review all sorts of April Fool's Day jokes that companies have made in the past.
Exactly, and especially it rings true when those jokes visualize and kind of self-criticize VNs as a whole. My favorite example has to be Starless, because whoever made those edits to create an announcement for a Starless all-age VNs from a title that originally is quite erotic, he did not only a phenomenal job in video editing, but also poked fun of typical tropes. Chef's kiss.
I don't know if anyone has seen it so far on our YouTube scrolling background of images, but someone had the brilliant idea to take scenes from Starless, a very no kids allowed visual novel, and to edit all of the scenes into completely safe for work, innocent images of people singing into microphones and playing an arcade game and having all sorts of PG-rated fun in an all-ages version. That was a hilarious joke. I see it. I keep seeing it scroll by, and I keep laughing on the inside.
Yeah, that one just was phenomenal. And again, I really like how self-conscious it is. Yeah, those are the scenes in the game. Those who know. But let's make fun of that. Yes, they surely played on arcade cabinet in the middle of mansion. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Ange,
Amazing.
I see you were mentioning stuff about the manga game or joke card game. It's like there's already plenty of real card games involving visual novel characters as guests or whatnot or tie-ins. So I mean, there's no market for it, right? I mean, you were mentioning how you'd love to play something like that.
It's funny you say that. So recently, I actually got to very casually getting into White Schwarz. I don't know if people heard it. It's like the anime trading card game that features anime characters, but they just happen to have one for the Fruit of Grisaya and the Fate Stay Night UFO Table anime, and I kind of collected those because of the visual novel thing. But if they ventured deeper into like these eroge only titles like Rance or If You Love It Then Say So or whatever, then I 100% be down to go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, you will be the eroge player at the local game shop. Okay, I see.
1000%.
Oh yeah, there's the people who buy up certain niche series because they have the most OP cards, and then you got the people who are buying their niche series because they are the hardcore fans, and damn it, they are going to win with Best Girl Saber.
Yeah, I don't play to win, I play to represent.
Heck yeah.
Great.
I think you also mentioned something about the Moon remake, right? So like that was like it turned from a April Fool's Day announcement into something real?
The one remake turned out to be real, and the Moon remake sadly was not real. But with the Moon, they at least made like a cool advertisement CG or picture or whatever, and it looked pretty legitimate. But the next in the company was like, oh no, yeah, no, sorry, that's fake, and then they removed the site. But the one pretty tied to Jun Maeda was the one that turned out to be real and got an English translation pretty recently.
We're getting pretty close to darn near every keywork being officially translated into English.
Yeah, I think we're just missing Kudwafter, as far as like having any translation, and official wise, there's only like a small handful.
I really hope we get Good Wafter soon. I'm a huge Little Busters fan, and yeah, looking forward to that one.
Oh, nice. So hopefully there isn't going to be one of those fake announcement April Fool's Day posts that break your heart.
I would literally cry. I would write a letter and send it to the company about how absolutely unhappy I am.
Oh,
I bet they wouldn't read it, but I'll do it. If they do that, I promise you, I will do that.
Oh no. I'm holding out hope for you.
Yeah, I'm holding out hope for me too.
MR, so it's a good thing we dropped in and we happen to have some ideas about visual novel April Fool's Day pranks and histories. MR, do you have any examples to share with us? Do you got anything off the top of your head?
My favorite has to be the Nekopara one, because that one announced on April Fools that there will be a spin-off featuring boys, cat boys instead of cat girls. Okay, but later on, I think it was 1 year or two even, it turned into a title. Yeah, they actually created that. So I hold out hope this month we'll see some sort of Inupara as well. And then in a couple of years, yeah, we'll have a proper dog girl VN.
Because it's one thing to have a very funny premise as an April Fool's Day joke. Like, the cast of our, totally serious fighting game is going to star in a high school AU dating sim, and then everyone laughs, and it's like, that'd be a funny idea, and people go about their day. But it's another for when the company actually releases a full product. Maybe not a full product. It's more of a chapter 1. It's more of a fun free demo. But still, yeah, it's hilarious. It's the Nekopara Cat Girls formula, but with cat boys instead. for all those
Yeah,
other
exactly.
fans.
You can recognize it as a joke, but then you think about it. It's close enough. I can actually see it happening, and it did happen.
Mhm.
Potential.
The only comment I can make about the Nekopara Catboy version is, it's cool that it was free and Otome fans got their Catgirl version. I feel bad for the ones who wanted an Arrowgay version of it, and it's probably never going to happen.
True.
They aren't brave
I mean-
enough. They're too big
Fair.
of cowards to put out an Arrowgay version.
I still appreciate the fact that it actually happened, right? Because they could just leave it alone and never produce an actual product, and instead leave it as a joke. But the fact that they follow through, that's damn impressive.
Mhm.
One thing I'm still absolutely surprised that exists. Are you guys aware of Dead by Daylight?
Vaguely, I've heard of it, and I know it's a popular video game.
No, they don't.
Well, it's pretty much a multiplayer game where killers chase you around. But anyway, out of nowhere, they announced, and I think it's still in beta or whatever. But it's called Hooked on You, a Dead by Daylight dating sim where you date each of the individual killers.
What?
And it's like a fully produced thing. I don't think it's voice, but I just can't believe it exists. Like, there's so many different kinds of these joke visual novels that you think, oh, this can't be real. And then you look it up, and then it's completely real and a full game.
Exactly. They've got the balls to complete the bit, to where they go full throttle into making it something good that fans will buy and enjoy and share the good word about.
I mean, yeah, there's no catboys in it, but
Oh.
it satisfies a certain niche.
Have you read it?
I have not. It is on my list because, again, it looks pretty good, and I like Dead by Daylight. But I hear good things. Even my non-visual novel playing friends who like Dead by Daylight, some of them have read this, and some want to read it. So it's kind of also an interesting thing in that these joke spin-offs from series you'd never think of, introducing people who don't typically read visual novels into reading a visual novel. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now that you mentioned that example, I'm thinking of another, because I do believe my first experience and exposure to a title called Sucker for Love was actually on April Fools. Someone sent it to me like, oh, see, you play VNs, this is about dating Cthulhu. I'm like, what? That can be real. And it turned out to be real. What the hell?
The Eldritch God Cthulhu?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Wait, what was the
They
name
have,
again?
like-
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah, because
So,
I'm-
go on.
I was just gonna say that sounds familiar. I just can't remember the name.
Yeah, it's called Sucker for Love, because tentacles, that's the play on words. Sucker.
Yes, I mean that's also its own interesting discussion, because when you have a lot of joke visual novels, I mean, there's a lot of people who fall for the bit and they're like, oh yeah, those silly dating sims, and they just kind of write it off as all being romance focused and all that. And so some people think that it does more harm than good to the credibility of visual novels and the entire industry. But on the other hand, like you mentioned, you've got friends who check out the Dead by Daylight, joke, April Fool's Day visual novel, and they come out liking it, or at the very least, they're more open to the idea of even trying it in the first place. So,
exactly.
yeah, when some people get their first steps into this medium versus the so-called damage that it does to the industry, it's kind of a hard balancing act of whether to be happy or to be frustrated at how visual novels are portrayed. So even though it's supposed to be a day about April Fools and having fun, there's still that concern there.
I think that's a completely fair concern too. To be honest, I haven't really thought too hard on the negative aspects of these kind of joke visual novels, or at least for the ones that actually release and are visual novels, like the Hooked on You, Dead by Daylight dating sim. I think I can definitely see where the harm can come from because it is a parody, pretty much at the end of the day. But I feel like a lot of people, most people already have a preconception of what they think a visual novel is. Like just like I guess a cringe, romance game. So I think if they see that kind of game, and their perception's not going to change at all, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. While it was not an April Fool's joke, I always think of the KFC joke via "I Love You, Colonel Sanders" that released. I mean, that it doesn't get much different from having an overwhelmingly positive, well-reviewed title on Steam and meanwhile on VNDB by like the quote-unquote hardcore community as a 4.35 average. So very, very clear divide on what like joke VNs mean to the casual Steam audience versus the hardcore audience.
Pretty much anything on VNDB is going to be the hardcore audience. I mean, it's not the sort of thing like, my anime list where it's pretty well known. It's pretty kind of woven into looking up any info about anime. VNDB does exist, but it's the kind of thing that nobody tells you about unless you happen to find it yourself. Yeah, unless you happen to really be inside the VN community.
Right.
Speaking of parodies, one that I'm sad didn't get to happen was when Muv-Luv and Men in Black had a joke collab announcement. They were gonna have those dudes in the black suits and all their fancy tech out shooting the beta, going pew pew, exploding guts. They had a whole joke like YouTube video for it. It's basically, it looks like a commercial, but still, it's hilarious.
I'd definitely buy that one, okay? That sounds just amazing.
I haven't followed too much in the whole Muv-Luv series past alternatives, but holy crud, if I saw something like that, I'd buy it. I'd read it. I want to see those cool space techies just annihilating beta all the way from here to the moon, just kicking ass. Hell yeah.
Exactly.
Honestly, with how crazy Muv-Luv is, I wouldn't even be surprised.
I know, right?
If it did exist.
True. Oh my god.
Who knows what other April Fool's Day's announcements we'll see in the future. Hopefully many more.
Yeah, I mean, as of this recording, we can't predict what announcements they have, but hopefully by the time this episode comes out, there's going to be a lot of good real announcements, and if there's any joke announcements, hopefully they're actually funny or something.
I remember one of those fake announcements that stuck in my head very clearly the past few years was a fake tweet that Sakura Games was going to handle the official English translation of Muramasa. And this was back in 2020. It wasn't translated yet. And the further joke was that Sakura Games were abysmal TL company who just trashed everything they touched. And so everyone was going on about, how funny April Fool's Day joke. But, the idea of Muramasa getting translated was still a pipe dream. And yet, in late 2021, so over a year later, we got the official translation of Full Metal Demon Muramasa.
Sometimes dreams do manifest, right?
Exactly. It's one of those things that, at the time, it seemed like an impossibility. But, the industry is advancing. It's growing in many ways, and what used to be a funny, ridiculous joke in the past could very soon become reality. So I think that's always a little spark of hope for the future.
Although I have to say, probably in the moment, for those who knew the title, that could be depressing. Like, make joke of that one title I want translated. Yeah, single tear.
Mm-hmm. Like poor Bruce with Cudwafter.
Exactly.
No. Aside from that, I thought of a question. A question for you, MR, and our dear guests here today. If there was a fun bonus content April Fool's Day joke, like one of those spin-offs, like the Catboys with Nekopara, or the dating sim with Dead by Daylight, if you could make any one of those kinds of things, just will it into existence for an April Fool's Day release, for one of your favorite visual novel series, what would it be? What kind of possibilities would you bring out into the world?
Okay, well, I already have my answer. So, just to have some brief, really quick backstory. So, way back in 2013, where my favorite visual novel Majikoi or Majita Washini Koishinasai, there is a joke spin-off game released on April Fools in Japan called Shakuro-san no Junai Road. For reference, he was like one of the main villains of the True Route. But for some reason, they gave him this joke game where he goes to the Sujiro-san universe, and he's living under a bridge, and he works like at a rotating sushi bar or something. It's just really goofy, and but surprisingly, it was a fun time. I mean, it wasn't like the funniest Machiko you ever offered, but it was a fun little romp that was like a few hours tops. I think it would be cool if they kind of reversed it and made a spin-off where they have one of the Sujiro characters go to the Machiko universe, because the Machiko universe has a lot of strong, super strong characters. Like these are like shonen level, like shonen battle shonen tier power levels. We're talking. I mean, the Sujiro universe, which is technically in the same universe, there's definitely some strong women there, but they're kind of more on the realistic side. Like they're just Yankees or delinquents, so they're probably they could beat up the average person, but they're not going to be beating up people with samurai weapons or shooting laser beams or stuff like that. So I think it'd be cool to maybe instead of Shakuro have like one of the random side characters that doesn't have a route, just try to survive in the Majikoi world somehow. If thinking like she's hot shit or something like that. So that would be my preferred April Fool's joke if possible.
And then we get the training arc full of comedy and mishaps.
Oh God! I don't want anymore. Okay.
Oh, that would actually be incredible. It's April Fool's Day spin-off of an existing spin-off.
Yeah.
Machikoi could make it happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it helps that it's a comedy-heavy series. They could just go all in.
Mm-hmm.
See what you did? Now Ange has his hopes up. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, what about you, MR? What have you got?
Oh, I mean, the first notion about the spin-offs you ask, I'm like, okay. So they did spin-off. Alisoft did a spin-off because they had the Evenicle runs. So what if runs was in Evenicle? So they took an element of one VN into another. So what if I had two concepts merged? So let's take a VN that I criticize, let's put it like that, Eosenki. Let's take the side story from that title. The side story of one character collecting swords, and make a spin-off game that is basically collecting Pokemons, but not this time. This time you're chasing mythical weapons, like in the Eosenki proper, but let's not be held down by mythos and mythology. Let's chase even the cartoons, anime, fantasy. All weapons are up to the ground. Let me chase for that Cloud sword from the Final Fantasy, okay? I want it in my collection. That would be amazing. I want this.
Ooh, so like Eiyuki-sen's... sorry, what's the name again?
Eosenki.
Eiyusenki. Thank you.
Yeah.
So like that Eiyusenki with a Pokemon minion catching genre?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
But catching all legendary swords. Give me that. I want that. all the references to all the mythology, maybe cartoons, anime. Oh, yes. My Wikipedia page would be on fire all the time.
Yeah, that sounds like a perfectly tailored game for you, Mr. World
Yeah.
Building.
Exactly. Give me that.
See,
Now you get my hopes up. Oh my
goodness.
I hate this question.
I hesitate
see
to
what
ask you.
happened.
I don't want to wish the same misery on you, Bruce Gone Loose, but do you have any hopes? Any?
Do I have any hopes, any dreams? No, those died a long time ago. Honestly, like the closest thing, like Inupara, like was kind of it. Like if you could just took Inupara and made it about fox girls, and made them all your little sister, that would be my ideal visual novel.
You've still got your Imoto fox girl Kitsune dreams.
That'll never die. I'm not saying I don't think anything like that will probably happen unless I get rich and make it myself. But another way I think of looking at this question is kind of just like combining the concepts of visual novels, or like taking characters from one visual novel and just like putting them in the story of another. And so recently, like the other day, I was just thinking like the characters from Symphonic Rain, which is like a melancholic but romance story. What if you put those characters in a visual novel like Euphoria? And I was just thinking about that for like an hour at work yesterday. It's like, I would read that, but I think it would be too much. Because like yeah, from like the stories of the characters, and like you have innocent characters, and then they're just put through the brutality, or well, whatever you'd call Euphoria anyway, of Euphoria's story, and it would just be a weird concept. So I guess some kind of weird fusion visual novel like that, which will never happen, but it would be super cool if it did.
The Symphonic Rain girls already suffer enough. They don't need to suffer anymore.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true.
Although, you did make a good point. Yeah, they are... Symphonic Rain is a drama, a very character-focused drama, but still, it's a very different drama than something as heavy and intense as Euphoria. And so what you mentioned, that is a good point. It's just, it seems similar, but it's two very different, I guess, directions, two very different aspects of it.
You broke him. You made Bruce go nuts.
Oh no!
I was already nuts to begin with.
Oh my god! Because to be honest, when you outline the premise and a template of taking one concept from one VM into another, my mind similarly follow on some time, like, and I think you read the Isekai VM. Oh, jeez, how was it called? Bruce,
Hatsumira?
You know what the one? Yeah, Hatsumira. Characters from Hatsumira as leaders of nations in a grand strategy VM, such as Venus Blood. That was my first thought when you proposed that template. Because they already had divided into tribes and different countries, but put them in a proper setting that reflects that. I would like that.
Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting. Yeah, it's just that kind of thing, or just it's kind of interesting when you think about it, because that's pretty much the entire concept of Muv-Luv. I'm not sure how much to say, but we did already kind of talk about Muv-Luv a little bit. But I think that's what like just like the shock value of like taking one, a concept and throwing it into another kind of visual novel or different genre.
Yeah, exactly. Although with Muv-Luv Unlimited, because that's where the blend started, it was more of a fish out of water experience, right? That was the point. Like, oh my god, what the hell is going on? I don't recognize anything, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, while what I think about is more natural, like, let's create an environment in which I can see those characters flourish as leaders of and representatives of their own countries and people.
Oh, that way of thinking is too nice. I think of the way I think of it is you take.
I definitely understand that's too nice. You took characters with emotional drama and you put them in cube horror. Holy crap!
Well, that's exactly what I mean, though. Like for me, like you got to go big or go home. Like,
Oh, that's
just
true,
like
okay.
take Nagisa from Clannad, throw her in Muv-Luv. I want to see what happens. You know, she'd probably
Aw.
just die. But you know, stuff like that.
Oh,
It would be pretty cool to see Nox as a mech pot, though. I'm not gonna lie.
It would be, yeah.
achieving victory through the power of friendship. Mm-hmm.
Damn right.
And then she rewards herself with some on pun later.
Oh, God.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in for today's episode. I am very glad that Ange and Bruce were able to make it, and we had them on as guests, even if they tried hijacking our podcast in the first place.
I have no regrets.
I'm thankful for the 5 minutes I was able to be a co-host in name.
Oh,
Thank you very much once more, Bruce and Ange. And we'll think about, Bruce, okay, about including an emoto corner. We'll think about it, okay?
Please do.
We'll see.
you will be banished to that corner.
Hey, man, I won't complain.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks also to all our listeners. And VNture out.
Venture out.